What is up, guys? Ivan here with getivan.com, and in this video we're going to be talking about a few neat things I want to share with you guys. The main thing I want to talk to you guys about is the Yellow Pages scraper in Scrapebox. I haven't done a video on that in a long time, and Adam here asked me to update my Yellow Pages video. So I'm going to go ahead and do that in this video. And before I get to that, though, I want to cover a couple things. Hamza Davis, shout out to Hamza. Sorry, I don't know how to say your name, but he gave me this recommendation for Threadlocks because I was talking about Threadlocks in this video on Scrapebox socket errors. And he said probably the best thing to do would be to go to settings, more harvester settings, then set the option called harvester minimum threads to a certain percentage. And when the connections get that low, it will forcefully end the task. So if you are using 100 connections and set it to 10%, then it will terminate when the thread counter drops to 0. So I've seen all those settings back there, but I don't really, pay attention to them in great detail, all the time. So when we're looking at options or settings and then connections and then more harvester settings, he's talking about this right here. So I set it to 1%. And that's based on my number of proxies. So at 500, it'll be like 5, and then at 200, it'll be 250, it'll be like 2.5. So maybe 2% is pretty good for my purposes. So we'll give that a try. And it puzzles me that Scrapebox support never shared that with me, because that is like a crucial piece of advice. So thank you, Mr. Davis, for that counsel. That is greatly appreciated. If that works the way that you're saying it's going to work, it's going to be huge. It's going to allow me to circumvent a lot of thread locking issues. So I'm going to go ahead and change this one real quick before I move on. And then the last thing I want to cover before I start talking about Yellow Pages is I rebranded a few days ago. I am now branded as Ivan's $57 B2B leads and email lists, and that might change in the future. I know it's very specific. I've been searching for specialty for the last 5 years, and I think I finally have it. I've been doing SEO mostly. Half of my business is still SEO, but SEO and web design and some things here and there. But now I'm really making the move to go full B2B. So that's hopefully going to be the big focus on this channel, is just scraping and B2B leads. And what I'm going to try to do, and you can see I tried to put this on the YouTube channel title, the 57, but they wouldn't let me put the $sign. So it looks kind of weird, but the goal is to just make it pricing really simple. Everything's $57, So I'm working on trying to get away from Fiverr for the custom orders. I'm working on like an internal system that's kind of like my own gig setup to do custom orders. And that way I don't have to deal with the drama of the Fiverr system. And then I've got these static packages that I'm working on. So popular B2B leads, just a static shopping cart with pre-built leads, basically. So the idea here, guys, is, if you guys are doing B2B, if you're doing email marketing, if you're doing work for clients, like, you can purchase these pre-built lead packages and, use them for your clients. So these are really low prices compared to a lot of other things, a lot of other prices on the market. And these are some pretty clean samples. Like these are sort of like taken from some of my most popular requests, and then I sort of like optimized the files and made them a little neater. And some of these, like the commercial real estate, is a combination of directory results and then also search engine scrapes. And then some of these other ones are just directory for now. And I'm working on slowly, building the quality and to be able to introduce some of the search engine files into the like official products, but I have like dozens of other files I'm going to be creating. I'm going to be adding other buttons below this area for specific niches. So I'll have like a contractor button, and I'll have like a legal button or a lawyer button, and all kinds of other niches. So that's coming soon. I'm working on it. It's just taking time, and and working on. I need to get a better social proof plugin of some kind. So, anyways, just wanted to update on that briefly. So let's talk about the Yellow Pages plugin. This is still, interestingly enough, probably the easiest way to get good verifiable leads, which is interesting. It's kind of how I started. I started doing the Yellow Pages gig thinking, well, it's easy to fulfill, get a good few bucks from it, could pay for the proxies. And it really just built from there. And the leads are just surprisingly good quality. When we take a look at, I don't have a data pivot table on this desktop, but when you examine hundreds of thousands of URLs, Yellow Pages is the most numerously reoccurring search engine ranking position, like a domain, of all the repeating domains. It's even above Facebook. And it blows like the next 5 below it out of the water. There are more Yellow Pages rankings than the 5 below that, which is pretty wild. A lot of people probably don't realize that. So Yellow Pages is huge. There's a lot of information, especially for big niches. And if you couple it with, let's see here, atomic mail verifier, or something like GLock or whatever it's called, there's another mail verifier, then you can basically have yourself a little factory of B2B leads. So here's how you set it up. Obviously, you need the premium plugin. Now, you don't need it necessarily. You can technically set it up through the Harvester Engine's configuration. I'm not going to go into that. You can basically look at some of these formulas and sort of reverse engineer it if you really want to look into that. That might be a video for another time, but it's not really necessary. It's easier to just buy the plugin. The plugin's not perfect, but it's really simple. So obviously you come in here and you load your proxies. And by the way, you don't technically need the proxies. Like, I have actually tested this in the past with no proxies, 100 connections, and it still works. So I haven't tested it recently. This was, a while back. But I've always found that the way the connections work with this plugin, it's just very different. You can run a lot of this plugin and not have any problems getting connections to Yellow Pages. So anyways, obviously you're going to load your proxies in here. I recommend anytime I recommend a service in this video, I'm going to try to remember to put the link for that service below this video in the description. So I'm going to put the web share link, and I really appreciate it if you use my links. Some of them will be affiliate, and some of them will just be regular links. So the web share link, I'll put the atomic mail verifier link down there, and I'll put some of the other proxy service links. But the main one that I use is web share. It's really cheap, and you don't even need rotations when you're scraping Yellow Pages. You don't need to really, I've found that you can use the same proxies over and over, and it's good to go. So obviously you load those in there. You want to check off that use box. These don't work. I have tested these. I have purchased UK proxies, and it'll work a little bit, but it's very different. Like for Yell, it works a little bit, but I'm not sure. It seems to me like there's just not enough results on Yell to make it worthwhile. You're actually better off scraping Yahoo. And for UK city names, you can scrape yahoo.com for the UK. I do it all the time, which it's awesome, because you can't actually scrape the UK version of Yahoo because it pops up a disclaimer that Scrapebox can't circumvent, and support confirmed that to me, that the GDRP thing that they throw up, it stops the scraper. So it doesn't matter, though. I've tested it, and if you just put the names of the UK locations, where is it? Here it is. UK city names. You'll get UK results from yahoo.com. So that will get you Yell results and a whole lot of other things. It's way better. So you don't need geolocated proxies to scrape from these places. Like I thought you did at one point. There's just a problem with scraping these in this utility. The Yellow Pages plugin has always been a little bit buggy. It's a little less buggy than it used to be. In the past videos, you probably saw me running like 100 instances of this thing and really ramping up like crazy. You can go wild. But they have changed it since then so that it works a little bit better, and you don't really need to do anything crazy like that. Basically, you just want to use .com, leave this at default. Selected location should be all locations. You can do my own locations and click here. You can see I've got some California locations. It's really not recommended because, it's possible, but whenever I get local requests for orders, I always say, okay, this is going to have to be a premium scrape for $70 because, and I know I was just talking about 57 over on my main site. Well, that's for the static files, not for the, well, maybe I might make it for, well, we'll see. I might make it for the custom orders. On Fiverr right now, my custom orders are $70 at the premium package at the moment. And the reason is because it's very custom. Got to go in, basically the smaller the area, the more keywords you want to use. Otherwise, you're going to have a poor yield. And so that's why it's really kind of not great with Yellow Pages, because the more keywords you use here, you just pick up a horde of duplicates. So in the unusual event, well, not unusual, but in the uncommon event that someone requests like a county or a few cities or a mile radius or something, then I'll throw that in this region. And I have a zip code tool I'll put in the description below where you can put in a zip code and get a mile radius around the zip code. But in the event you need to do that, then I'll load up a ton of keywords, and it takes maybe about the same time, about a day or something, to process. And then there's always a lot of duplicates, but it just depends. Like that usually works for people who have requests like, I just need small businesses in this region. But if it's more specific, like someone messaged me recently asking for crawl space repair and basement or foundation repair or something like that, and they want to target like a city, it's like that's not going to give you a good result. So you don't necessarily want to go too local. And the point is, if you do, make sure that you use a lot of keywords in the box. Otherwise, all locations, and every time you do all locations, just do one keyword. If you do more than one keyword, now, if you're talking about, you have to be aware of your niche. If you're doing something in a niche that is kind of tertiary, like obscure, then it's probably okay to use 3 or 4 like obscure terms together that are sort of similar, and you kind of want it to process a little bit more during that time. But like, you have to be careful, because sometimes things that you may not be familiar with can have an immense amount of volume. Here's some stuff that I did recently in my effort to begin to prepare. These are for some orders I have, and then here's some stuff in an effort to prepare for some big niches. Here's some contractor niches that are big. Here's some beauty niches. And appraiser would be something that you don't really think would be, you don't even know what that is necessarily, but when we look at it, you can see it's 31,000 listings, which that's not a lot, but compared to some things, like there's more listings here than there is for solar panel companies. So from Yellow Pages. So the point is that you kind of want to be careful how many you put here, otherwise, because you don't really want it to be processing for more than a day. Now, when I processed in the past, I did a lot of instances. I did tests which determined that after about 4 to 8 hours, it got most of the listings, and a lot of it was diminishing returns on duplicates. Beyond that, if you let it process beyond that, at that time, it was basically like not much of a difference. Nowadays, the plugin works better, and I just let it run until it finishes, and that usually takes a day. So I'll let it run and I'll come back, I'll look at it tomorrow and it'll be finished. So it's one of those things where and the resources are lower when an instance is running. Like right now, I have, let's see, auto body. I'm rerunning this because I got a strange result. Sometimes this glitches, so you have to be mind. You have to watch the yield. Sometimes it glitches, or maybe if like a server crashes, I don't notice that. Okay, I forgot to restart something that may have happened earlier. It may not have glitched. I may have just forgot that the server crashed. I'm doing auto repair here. And you can see the records are ticking up little by little. And you can look at the resources here. So I have 2 instances, I think. Yeah, I've got 2 instances running. And that's not taking up much system resources. You see it's about 7% CPU and about 700 megabytes of RAM. So that can kind of give you an idea. Like, you could run multiples, but thing is, I have definitely noticed if you try to run like more than 5 nowadays, it actually it recursively, or maybe not recursive is not the right word, but it will slow down the other instances and the rate that they collect. So these days, I highly recommend only run 2 per machine, and that'll give you plenty. You can run a couple per machine. That gives you plenty of resources where you can still run other scraping processes within reason. The most resource-intensive task is the regular harvester on the CPU. So this is an i5 processor, and so you just kind of got to be mindful. Like, you don't really want to run more than 1 or 2, no more than 2, maybe 1 YP scraper, and then your regular scraping process. So if you sit at 100 CPU too long, if you sit up there too long, your machine is at risk of crashing. Anyways, so let's take a look at that again. So jack those connections up to 100. No matter how many proxies you have, like even if you're not using proxies, jack them up to 100. Connect timeout at 15. Read out timeout at 30. Read timeout at 30. So I've played with this. I don't know how much a difference it makes. I've had it totally lowered. I run it at about the middle of the road. A lot of my other timeout settings are at 30 seconds, and that has made a difference in some other processes. So it might even need to be moved up a little bit, possibly to 40. But that's like a middle of the road. And then I put proxy retries at 30, and there's not really any logic to that, just retrying as much as possible. I don't know if 0 will just keep retrying. I don't know if it's perpetual. I'm not sure. And then you want to do 0 for all, 0 for total. There's a filter, but that's for after if it processes, and I never use that. Every time I use this, after it's finished, I just exit or I immediately run something new. And then you can come into the folder, go to plugins, YP scraper, go to autosave, and then you can see I got some autosave. This is the best way to retrieve the files. It's just the best. It's just the easiest way. It takes a long time sometimes to export here, and it's like you have to go through menus. It's just a waste of time. And I feel like I may have tested in some parts of Scrapebox when you use the export, it doesn't output everything. So it's better. I find it's better to go into the autosave files as much as possible. So just to recap that really quickly, obviously you put your proxies in. Web share is what I recommend. So just regular, data center shared proxies work fine. Yellowpages.com, all locations, or you can do custom locations. If you do custom locations, you can use a permutator or a list of cities with you can permutate your keywords in your cities like this. You can basically put your cities in here like this, drag them here like this, and then put in a text file a word like this one has call center company. So then you come here to merge. Let me find my scrape merge file. And then it'll permutate those with those city names. So I'll put the links to the cities in the description below also. Not that you need those necessarily, but they're nice. But anyways, but mostly all locations. And well, if you do custom locations, you want to make sure you use a ton of keywords. All locations, you're just going to use like one keyword, ideally. And in some cases, like there are some niches that you may not hear about that often. Like I never really heard of siding contractors all that frequently, at least. But it's a gigantic file. Like, look at this. 1.3 million listings. And I believe that's after being scrubbed. So that is a monster. And other things are, nail salon is a monster also. So you got to be mindful of the keyword you're going for and just let it run. So it's really simple nowadays, guys. Go through the steps that I mentioned, have 1 or 2 instances open, just sit back, let them run, come back tomorrow. It's really simple. So that's pretty much it. I appreciate your time, guys. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will catch you in the next video. Thanks. Bye-bye.